All right, here we go again. Let's try this. It's the Big Show. Welcome to the Big Show. I'm Paul Zeise. We do it every day here, right around 5 o'clock. We try and break down the day in Pittsburgh sports right here on the Post-Gazette's YouTube channel. Big Show brought to you by FanDuel Casino, also by Archie's. We'll get to both of those in a little bit. One of the things that has become painfully obvious, unfortunately, for the guys involved, is that we like to criticize Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan and company. We like to give them a hard time when they make mistakes. And I think that, sometimes we need to give them credit when they actually make the right decision. And I will tell you this much right now. I was of the opinion that moving on from Russell Wilson probably was the right decision. I thought that he wasn't very good last year. I thought that his teammates didn't really respond to him very good. I just thought he was kind of done. And it's one of these things that it's just one of those things where Russell Wilson probably, I don't want to say is cooked, but clearly, the Giants signed him. They wanted him to be their starter. They wanted him to be their guy. And basically, it hasn't worked out for him. He just hasn't been very good to the point where he got benched. And now, I will say this, now that he got benched, it's kind of fun, but they've got a rookie that's playing. And it looks like he's probably going to be their guy now for the next 5, 6, 8, 10 years, which means Russell Wilson probably at the end of the year is either going to have to retire, or if he's going to retire, or if he's not going to retire, he's going to have to find another team. Or maybe just be happy being the backup, but I don't think they're going to pay him to be the backup. So to me, I feel like it's one of those situations where they made the right call when it came to Russell Wilson. That's a big part of it. And Russell Wilson, to me, again, I don't know how good he is or what he's got left, but not much. Not much at all. And so I feel like, when you look at it from that standpoint, take a step back, the Steelers actually never really even talked to Russell Wilson. They never really even, decided that they wanted to even pursue Russell Wilson for this year. And so it's one of those things where they made the right call. The Steelers have always been pretty good at sort of stepping, out of the, stepping out of the here and now and kind of like saying, well, what we need to do? We need to basically say, even though everybody else or a lot of people think this guy might still have something left, we're not sure that he does, and so we're not going to, spend any more money on him or any more time on him. We're going to move on. Steelers have done it. I know that, they've done it with some really popular players. I think that they've done it in a way where, sometimes it's not been popular, but in Russell Wilson's case, I think it was pretty clear it was time to move on from him. And in my mind, that's something that we need to give them a lot of credit for, because there wasn't a lot of people weren't on board with that at all. A lot of people thought, well, he still has something to offer. Maybe he's still maybe better than some of the guys they're going to bring in, all that other good stuff. So let's start there. I think it's an important thing to note that they made the right decision when it came to Russell Wilson. Now, same thing with Justin Fields. I thought Justin Fields was a guy maybe that they would take a shot at, figure out, hey, we could win games with him running the football, and we play great defense. We use his legs, and when we use his legs, it opens some things up. So we're going to try and build an offense around what he does well. They had some talks with him, I guess, but not many. So I feel like it's important now that you think about it it's important in many, many ways to give the Steelers credit because Justin Fields has also sort of shown who he is, hasn't he? And, outside of some of the hype that surrounds him because he was, drafted high and, there was a thought that he didn't get a fair shake in Chicago and all this other good stuff. Guess what? They made the right call on him too. He's been bad with the Jets to the point where, I think this week the Jets are going to start Tyrod Taylor. I mean, at least with the Giants, you say, well, Russell Wilson, they gave it a shot. It's pretty clear he doesn't have much left, so they're just going to go with the rookie to see what happens, right? Okay. Those two guys are bad. But, the difference is if you are Justin Fields, you are not going to be, you're not going to be happy that you have a situation of where you are basically being benched for a journeyman. I mean, let's face it. Tyrod Taylor is the ultimate journeyman. He's a guy that's bounced around from, team to team and all that other stuff. If you're getting benched for him, that's bad news for you, right? Really bad news for you. So to me, I think we got to give Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin a lot of credit. They basically said, neither of these guys that we had on our roster last year are good enough for us to pursue. Now, it helps that they were able to go and get Aaron Rodgers, and he actually has something left in the tank. But to me, we like to criticize them a lot when things don't work out. But what they did really well in this case was decide that they just didn't want a bad quarterback. Anyway, joining me now, our good friend from the Pennsylvania Sports Network Midday Show. That would be Joe Ludnowski. Joe, talking a little bit about how we like to criticize the Steelers quite often when they make mistakes or they don't make good personnel decisions and all that other stuff. But it's pretty clear their decision to say, you know what, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson really aren't doing it for us, so we're going to move on from them. There were a number of people who thought, well, one or the other they should have kept, but it actually looks like they made a really good decision to move on.
Yeah, it's one of the rare instances when you let the younger quarterback go for the older guy, and it seems to have worked out. And I don't know if that was – I mean, Arthur Smith and Justin Fields, in my opinion, were round peg, square hole to begin with. I think, that made the Andy Kittle, Nicky, Drew Aller marriage look like it makes sense. But, I just – the Steelers, to me, the ironic thing being is that the offense is the least of their concerns, which, is not something that anyone saw coming. I think Aaron Rodgers, as long as he stays upright, the ball gets out quickly, and the offensive line continues to improve, I think they'll have enough offense to contend. But the reality is their defense is not going to be good enough. And unless that changes, it doesn't matter if it's Terry Bradshaw or Arch Manning that's the quarterback.
Well, let's start there. What are your thoughts? I have some thoughts about why the defense isn't working. Clearly to me, the Stars haven't played well. I think they have too much faith in guys like Jalen Ramsey. I think that their inside linebackers are a little bit soft against the run, but I don't know. From where you sit, what do you see as the problem when it comes to the Steelers' defense?
Well, obviously their ground defense is atrocious, and Chase Brown. That was a Bengals team. I don't care who the quarterback is. They were averaging 57 yards a game on the ground. That was the worst run offense in the entire National Football League. And then they get paired against the most expensive defense, and it looks like, Chase Brown and Jamar Chase are on their way to Canton. Obviously, Jamar Chase is a little bit more, palpable in terms of, rationalizing that one away into making sense. But obviously, that defense on the ground was just absolutely awful. The optics of it, on the heels of Watt and Hayward sort of hold out. We owe more money, deserve more money. I mean, sure, they might have been underpaid prior, but as of now, they sure are overpaid, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that you can ask when you look at how much money they've dumped into the total defense. Has it been money well spent? I was one of the people that thought that they should probably move on from TJ Watt. I know I got a lot of hatred for that, but my thoughts were...
I was with you, buddy. I was with you.
Yeah, I thought, you don't want to sign him to another 3-year deal or whatever it is. Cam Hayward, he's starting to show maybe his age a little bit. I haven't noticed him nearly as much in terms of wrecking things and being a disruptive force. Jalen Ramsey's a guy that, they thought that they had one of these take away half the field, shut down corner kind of guys, and he certainly hasn't been that. I think he's still a good player. I don't have a problem with him being in the secondary. I think, though, that they need to reevaluate how they're going to use him.
Well, you and I talked the last time we were on, and when you were on my show about how much this feels like the Eagles' dream team from 2011. I mean, I think Darius Slay is the oldest corner in the NFL by 2 years. Jalen Ramsey's no spring chicken. Listen, I do think I like the way, as critical as I was of Omar Khan's drafting, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with this group in particular. But when you're having press conferences in the beginning of the season, and you're talking about, well, when the rookie gets here, we'll improve. Generally speaking, that should be a red flag that, if you're waiting for Derek Harmon and the black kid to get there to be able to stop the run, you've got much bigger issues than the 2 rookie defensive linemen that you're waiting on getting things figured out. That, to me, looking back, that to me should have been the biggest red flag about this defense in general, that we were literally having conversations. Oh, wait, when the rookies get here, things will get better.
Yeah, I think Derek Harmon's been a pretty good player for them, though.
He is, but I'm just saying, when that's the backbone of your success defensively on the highest paid defense in the NFL, that's a red flag.
No question. And I think that it's one of those things where I don't know that there's an easy fix here. Other than Cam Hayward plays better, the 2 inside linebackers get a little bit better against the run. I just don't know that there is an easy fix. And it's kind of funny that we're sitting here talking about that when you consider how much money they spent on defense.
I had a fix that made a lot of sense until last week, but I don't think it's going to make sense. I thought A.J. Brown for Alex Highsmith would have made sense for both sides, but obviously it looks like the Eagles kind of found A.J. Brown again. But let's be honest, what are they going to do when Nick Herbig comes due? Because as of right now, Nick Herbig's their best edge rusher.
Right. The problem they have with him is he's not very good against the run. And so you've got, that problem. And so this week, for instance, Mike Tomlin was talking about how he had reduced playing time, mostly because they had to figure out how to stop the run. Now, I don't know if I fully buy that, but I do think there is something to be said for that. If he's a one-trick pony, it probably changes a little bit how much he's actually going to be really worth. But, if you can sack the quarterback, you go get paid. I mean, that's a big part of it. So I think that they've got to figure out how they can utilize all their guys and all their pieces in a way where they can. I mean, because this week they got Josh Jacobs coming into town, and he's a really good running back, and the Packers are committed to trying to run the football. I think they play the Lions, don't they? At some point down the road, they play the Lions. They've got a really good running game. I mean, they play the Colts, who have a really good running game. They've got to figure it out, and they've got to figure it out pretty quickly, or I think they're going to have a really difficult time winning some of these games.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that they could find themselves, because there is enough talent, they figure it out, they could be the 2 or even the 1 seed and still be the worst team that makes the playoffs from the AFC.
Right.
I mean, that's the craziness of that possibility. I was not buying the Colts, but I am all in on the Colts. Daniel Jones is bound and determined to get Brian Dable fired in New York. He has been unbelievable. I mean, the Colts, I know this would never happen because they wouldn't allow it to happen, but the Colts could have the MVP in Daniel Jones, the Offensive Player of the Year in Jonathan Taylor, and the Rookie of the Year in Tyler Warren all in the same offense.
Right.
Like that's not out of this world to say.
And I think your Eagles guy, Shane Steichen, I think has done a really, really good job. He's known as a very creative offensive mind, and he's done a really, really good job with that. So I don't think
the Patriots stink either.
Yeah.
What year is this? 2007, the Colts?
Right. I think the thing about the Patriots is they've got a young quarterback who's getting better every week.
Yeah.
So when we get to the end, they could be a problem. Offensively, I still think, Joe, this team needs a second wide receiver. I know they got some big plays from Pat Freiermuth last week. I know that they've had a bunch of targets for their tight ends. To me, if this offense is really going to be unleashed, they need to find a second receiver. I'm not a buyer on Calvin Austin. I've been hearing about this guy for 4 years or however long he's been here. He's a training camp hero who makes one or two plays, and people are like, oh, well, look, that's what he's capable of. He's, at best, the number 3 receiver.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I said about trading, prior to Sunday, with obviously the Eagles and Kevin Petula and AJ Brown kissed and made up. But we've talked about Christian Kirk, we've talked about Chris Olave in St. Louis in New Orleans, the kid in the wide receiver in Myers in Oakland. The Steelers have all these middle round picks, right? Well, everyone tells me, but they're going to draft a quarterback.
Right.
Are you really going to punt this season when you might be offensively? This is probably a stretch, but Chris Olave and DK Metcalf would be the best wide receiver duo since the 70s in Pittsburgh. That would be unbelievable. Now, I know Olave is injury prone and things of that nature, but in theory, are you really going to risk tanking for Fernando Mendoza to not go try to win the Super Bowl this year? I don't think there's a quarterback out there in college right now that is this is the guy we have to go have. You've got an offense that is beyond serviceable. What's the harm in firing one of those third rounders to see what it nets you? I just think that's insane.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Here's the other thing. Did you see the Jeremy Fowler report today that, Aaron Rodgers, now they're talking about bringing him for another year? First of all, it seems very premature to me. Second of all, it seems like something you probably don't need to take care of right now. And third of all, at some point, are they going to look at what is the quarterback of the future?
Well, speaking of quarterbacks of the future, I don't know what the number would be, but pretty certain that Daniel Jones is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So, they didn't want Sam Darnold. How's that looking now? Aaron Rodgers next year is probably the last year. Maybe can you restructure some contracts to see what you can do, trade for draft capital at the deadline. If you're desperate for a quarterback, shouldn't you be making cap room, not trying to rearrange the chairs in the Titanic to get another third-round quarterback in the first round?
Yeah, again, that's that's all the kind of thing that you look at and you basically say, okay, well, let's worry about that in the offseason. Right now, to me, I don't even know why that's on the table, worrying about next season right now. When you've got 11 games left, when you've got all kinds of issues that we've talked about and everything else, that stuff, you can worry about that, in the offseason or down the road here. The biggest thing is figuring out how to, A, stop the run, and B, I'll tell you another thing. I think that their secondary is not as good as, advertised. The one thing that I think has gotten better each week is the offensive line. I think they've gotten a little bit better week after week after week. That seems to be something you can build on.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is And the NFL is different than college, but maybe this is more of a college question than an NFL question, because each and every week you see something that, really leaves you shaking your head. Do you think that the quality of opponent has anything to do with the offensive line looking good? Did they need to go run for $145 on Sunday night for you to really believe that, or do you already believe that?
No, I mean, I think they have gotten better. Honestly.
They have, but are they good enough to do it against good teams?
I think we'll find out over the next few weeks, right? I mean, that's a big part of it. We will figure that out over the next few weeks, but I think that they have gotten better. I think, one of the things is we don't talk about Broderick Jones hardly at all anymore, which I think is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
And now you look at it and you say, okay, well, that's a good thing. Everybody else, if they continue to get a little bit better, well, then guess what? You have an opportunity for the line to be a strength as opposed to a weakness. Real quick, FanDuel Casino, we thank them for being our sponsor. You can download the FanDuel app. Tonight, the NBA gets really going. Last night, there were a couple of games in the NBA, but tonight it gets really going. Let's hone in on one game on the FanDuel app. Let's see what happens here. We've got the Celtics against the Sixers. That's about as traditional of a game as you can find. And obviously two teams that, well, if they stay healthy, should be in the playoff hunt. Right now it's in Boston. On the FanDuel app, you can get the Celtics minus 4.5. And the over-under is 229.5. The money line, if you want to bet on the Sixers, you think they're going to pull the upset, bet 100, you get 155. There's all kinds of other ways you can bet, and that's the beauty of the FanDuel app. So go to the FanDuel app. You can bet on who scores the most points. You can bet on who scores points. You can bet on points, rebounds, and assists, and all the other good stuff. So get to the FanDuel app, download it, and you can bet right from the convenience of your phone. And tonight would be a good night to start because the NBA, as I said, gets going underway. Joe, real quickly.
How good was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last night, by the way?
What's that?
How good was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, by the way?
Yeah.
He was so good. So clutch. So clutch. I love that kid.
He's really good every night, pretty much. Joe, well, you know what? You're an NBA guy. I'll ask you real quickly. I mean, obviously we don't spend a lot of time on it, but Celtics and the Sixers tonight, clearly it's going to be, those two teams will probably be in the playoff hunt, but the big thing with the Sixers is, can they stay healthy? Because that's been a big part of their problem.
Well, I think this year there's going to be different. If you've not seen VJ Edgecombe yet, he is absolutely, Vince Carter-esque type athlete. He is going to make a career hanging out in the SportsCenter top 10. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey, they brought back Quentin Grimes for a year. And then remember Jared McCann, the TikToker from Duke who got hurt last year. He's back. They do have some guards for the first time that they don't have to be all about Embiid. Kelly Oubre's there. Obviously, they've got Bona, who played really well last year, quite frankly. Justin Edwards, the kid from Philly, the Kentucky player. So they've got some depth from the standpoint that I think, if nothing else, last year, Paul, when they had all of the injuries, they had a lot of younger guys have an opportunity to play in an expanded role. So if Embiid does have to miss a week and a half, it's not 1-9 like it would have been last year or was last year. But the depth at guard is great. And maybe, just maybe, Jared McCain is good enough that they could pair him with Paul George and finally get Paul George's expensive ass out of Philadelphia and arguably the worst contract in the history of sports. That's my hope.
Well, my over-under for Joel Embiid to get hurt the first time is about 3 games. So we'll see if he can actually survive.
He's the best big man since Akeem, but my goodness, he can't stay healthy.
It's if you're not healthy, you're not helping your team. By the way, the game is always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson Street. Archie's, home of 80-cent wings Monday through Thursday. Of course, you can always get the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's, and when you get there, tell Archie I sent you. Tell Archie hello. Enjoy a big weekend of sports. You've got all kinds of college football on Saturday. Sunday, you've got NFL games all day long. Of course, they're open on Sundays. So get down to Archie's, and when you're there, say hello to Archie. Joe, maybe Penn State hires the right coach and everything goes well for them, and maybe they, get right back on track and start winning 12 games again or whatever. But isn't there a cautionary tale all across the country, in places like Wisconsin, where you hire the quote-unquote hot candidate, you fired a reasonably successful coach, and the guy that came in is nowhere close to as good as the guy you got rid of in terms of his record and all that stuff. You would think Penn State will do their due diligence and figure it out, but isn't that a possibility?
I don't think so, for one reason and one reason only. This is the first time, when I say this is the first time the last 3 years or so that Penn State has been a true big boy. When Pat Kraft changed the way things were done, the notion, imagine it would be laughable that Sandy Barber would allow, Jim Knowles to be making $3.25 million, to be the highest paid coordinator. That wouldn't have happened. Think about all the guys that have gone on, Charles Huff and Josh Gaddis and all the guys that left because they were underpaid. They didn't get paid like the big boys. So I don't think that'll be the case. And Penn State is one of maybe 10 jobs in America where not any idiot can do it, but I don't think they're going to fall to rock bottom. But I also think, obviously we're on in State College every day, among other places. With there's way more juice to the story about James Franklin circumventing Pat Kraft, trying to get a raise in the offseason. I don't know if we'll ever know all the details to it, but I don't know if that, obviously 3 games in a row with that payroll and, what everything cost. Was he going to be fired? I don't know. But, generally speaking, when you ask your boss for a raise and he tells you no, and then you go to his boss to try to get a raise, that's going to cause a little bit of friction. And,
right.
I don't have that story 100% confirmed. I have it bits and pieces, and I've heard it from multiple people, and it kind of sounds the same. It's not exactly the same, but too many people are talking about it for that not to be really the root of the issue. And it basically, what I was told from a very reliable source is that the relationship had sort of run its course where almost the only thing that could have saved it was a national championship.
What would be a name that would excite you?
Urban Meyer. He almost took that job before. I know Urban Meyer's got a checkered past, but I don't think you risk the $50 million buyout and then you hire somebody on the morality clause or the first ballot Hall of Nice guy, right?
Yeah.
You're in it to win it. You've got a payroll that, depending on who you talk to, is anywhere between $15 and $35 million. You've got the highest paid defense coordinator in the country. You are in need of another $700 million to finish the stadium renovation. Success with honor was a long time ago. This is different. This is pay for play. This is, nobody cares if you graduate your players anymore. We just pay them. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Urban Meyer almost took it before. He would be, the one that I would be really interested in. I don't know if he's going to come out of retirement, but remember, Urban would have an opportunity to win at 3 schools. That's a list that nobody else is on. Florida, Ohio State, and Penn State. That would probably put him to the front of the line. Out of the more realistic ones, I think Eli Drinkowitz would be a great fit. I think you'd be an absolute idiot if you're not calling Jeff Brom. And when I say not calling, everybody should be calling Jeff Brom, Florida included. Then you get down into the how crazy do you want to get? Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Brady were names that I had on my list from the very beginnings of it. I'm not saying Matt Rule would not be a great coach. Matt Rule might be the nicest guy in the world. But you got to figure, if you're Pat Kraft, you fired Franklin and you put your behind in the hot seat. Now, this hire is your future. Are you that good of friends with anybody on planet Earth that you're willing to put your livelihood on the line? Because here's the thing, right? Because I know everyone's sticking the eye roll with Urban Meyer. If you go hire Urban Meyer, everybody would have hired Urban Meyer. And it doesn't work out, it's not your fault.
Right.
But if you fire James Franklin to go hire Matt Rule and you're 7-5 and Eli Drinkowitz would have come or Cliff Kingsbury would have come or somebody that's way sexier than Matt Rule, then Pat Kraft is the one that's getting fired.
Yeah, there's no question. Well, last one I have for you, Joe. I'll let you go. There was a big stink because Louisville signed a kid from the G League, a kid who played in the G League for 2 or 3 years. I'm of the opinion it's professional sports now. Just throw everything out the window, number one. Number two, guys come from Europe and play professionally in Europe, and they come here and play in college basketball. I think this is really much ado about nothing. It's time to just try, to just throw out all of this nonsense about amateurism and the purity of it and all that other crap, and just let's all have real conversations about what it is. Where are you standing?
A wise man once told me, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. What is the difference of getting somebody from the G League or Mark Pope and his $25 million payroll at Kentucky?
Right.
What's the difference?
Right.
I don't understand the difference. It's we had DeCourcy on today, and it's different in basketball because if somebody with a lot of money in Pittsburgh decided that they had $100 million burning a hole in their pocket and they wanted Duquesne to get to the Final Four, it could be done. It could be done.
Right.
So how is that any different than hiring somebody or maybe a Freudian slip, getting somebody that's already played professionally, whether it's abroad or here? It is professional sports. It stinks. I mean, there's no authenticity to it. It's you're buying. You better be buying jerseys that don't have names on the back of them because the transfer. But it's like barking at the clouds. It's not going to change until there's enough Texas A&M's, Penn State this year in football that wasted all that money and they're not getting anything out of it. Until there's a natural market correction, hang on, because it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
No, there's no question. Well, Joe, thank you for breaking it down and jumping on with us. As always, we have a great time. But you and I think are on the same page. It's really time for some of these. Like I saw Tom Izzo losing his mind about the whole thing. It's really time for some of these guys to just jump on the train and stop trying to resist it and act like if you had a chance to get a G League guy, you wouldn't go do it too.
Well, I think that the most telling part of where we're at, and we'll go back to 2 Mondays ago when Pat Kraft had his press conference, and he made it abundantly clear that Penn State was not paying James Franklin's buyout. It was coming from the athletic department. So, like these are big business people here. Maybe it's time we have the separation of church and state and allow the professional organizations to do the NIL and all that, and then we just have another level that is just good old-fashioned room and board like it used to be.
Joe, thank you so much, buddy.
Be good, Paul. Enjoy the hoops tonight, brother.
All right, there you go. Joe Lednowski, Pennsylvania Sports Network, a midday show on Paul Zeise. Of course, we will do it again over the weekend. We will be here after the game on Sunday. It'll be a late one, but we'll do it. But until then, enjoy your day.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.